Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going into some really unsettling territory. We're looking at true stories, actual accounts of living with roommates where things took a genuinely terrifying turn.
Yeah, these aren't just, bumps in the night. We've gathered some particularly chilling narratives, specifically from accounts shared on the Whisper Diaries YouTube channel. These are personal experiences that really dig into that feeling of safety, or rather, the loss of it, right where you live.
Right, and our goal here is to really unpack these stories. It's not just about what happened, but trying to understand how the people involved felt. And maybe pinpoint what makes these shared living situations sometimes go so incredibly wrong, so unnerving.
It's that violation of your safe space, isn't it? Turning the familiar into something frightening.
Exactly. Okay, let's start with this first account. The source calls it The Woods and the Wide Eyes. It starts pretty relatable, early 20s, just out of college. 4 guys sharing a rental house, rural area splitting the rent. And for, about 9 months, everything's fine, normal.
Pretty standard stuff, right? Just young people figuring things out. But then the dynamic shifts. 2 of the roommates move out.
Right, so suddenly it's just the narrator and this one guy, KJ. And the narrator mentions they didn't really know KJ that well to begin with. He was kind of distant already.
And the rent doubles, which adds pressure. The plan becomes, okay, let's just tough it out for 3 more months until the lease ends.
And almost immediately, things start getting weird. The narrator finds they're home alone most of the time. KJ's basically never there, even though he only works mornings, part-time.
Which is odd. You'd expect to see him around more.
Yeah. The narrator thinks it's strange, but honestly, kind of enjoys having the space to themselves initially.
But that quiet enjoyment doesn't last. The first really strange encounter happens late one night, like 1 a.m. narrator sees headlights, hears KJ pull up.
And, trying to maybe break the ice or just be neighborly, the narrator decides to open their door and say hi as KJ comes down the hall. Well, as they open the door, they hear KJ rushing down the hallway. And when KJ sees the narrator, he physically jumps, like completely startled.
Whoa.
Yeah. The hallway's dark, but the narrator can see KJ's eyes are just wide open. He's frozen there near his own bedroom door.
Yeah.
Super awkward silence.
I can imagine.
Then KJ just mutters, "I'm good." And the narrator sort of backs off, feeling like they made things even weirder, just wondering why he was rushing, why he looked so spooked.
That's really unsettling. So the narrator feels something's off.
Definitely. Enough that they quietly go back into the hallway after retreating, just to listen outside KJ's door.
And they hear something.
Oh, yeah. They hear frantic movement inside. Drawers opening and closing chaotically, like someone desperately searching for something or packing in a panic. Just frantic energy.
Okay, that's not normal roommate noise.
Not at all. And then, just as suddenly as it started, the noise stops. Dead silence. And KJ's door swings open. He's just standing there, same wide, staring eyes. The narrator, trying to act normal, says something like, "Oh, just go into the kitchen and eat anything." KJ just quietly mutters, "No," and shuts the door again.
Wow.
So the narrator goes to the kitchen, probably just for show at that point, and then bolts back to their room, totally creeped out, convinced something is seriously wrong with KJ.
Yeah, you would be. That stare, the frantic sounds, it paints a picture.
And this kicks off like 5 or 6 days of just pure unease. The narrator is hyper alert, stays awake every night until KJ gets home, can't actually sleep until they hear KJ go into his room and shut the door.
Living on edge in your own home.
Totally. And KJ stays in what the narrator describes as a disturbing, almost zombie-like state. Yeah. His eyes look increasingly more restless. He barely speaks, just rushes into his room every time. The tension is just building and building.
It's this escalating pattern of withdrawal, but also this intensity in his look. It's not just quiet, it sounds disturbing.
And then, just when you think it can't get weirder, the pattern breaks. One night, KJ gets home, and a little while later, there's a knock on the narrator's door. Quietly, though they didn't even hear him walk down the hall.
Okay, that's a change.
Huge change. KJ is standing there, same restless eyes, but now he has this partial smile. He says he dropped his wallet in the driveway, asks if the narrator has a flashlight, and can help him look.
That is weird. After days of silence and avoidance, he asks for help. For something simple like a wallet.
Exactly. The narrator thinks it's incredibly strange KJ never asked for help before, but maybe hoping this is a chance to, normalize things, they agree to go. Maybe clear the air.
It's that sudden shift from complete avoidance to asking for cooperation.
Right.
Feels manufactured somehow.
Right. So they grab a flashlight, follow KJ outside, and KJ starts making small talk, asking about work, stuff like that. Also weird for him.
Keeping up the normal act.
But the narrator immediately notices something else that feels off. KJ's car isn't parked near the house. It's really far down the driveway, all the way at the end, much further than usual.
Why park way down there?
Good question. They walk all the way down to the car, shine the light around, no wallet.
Okay.
And then KJ doesn't turn back towards the house. He starts leading the narrator away from the car, deeper into the woods that border the property.
Oh no, that's
not good. The narrator immediately questions it, like, why would your wallet be way out here? KJ hesitates for a few seconds, then says he went for a short walk earlier, an explanation the narrator just does not buy.
Doesn't sound believable at all, especially given his recent behavior.
No, and KJ keeps trying to edge them further into the woods, deeper in.
That location is key, isolated, dark, away from the house, away from any potential witnesses or help. This feels very intentional.
And that's when the narrator's suspicion just crystallizes into actual fear. That gut feeling is screaming now.
Yeah.
They try to bail, holding out the flashlight to KJ and saying, look, I got to get back work tomorrow, trying to create a natural out.
Makes sense, trying to de-escalate, get away.
But KJ doesn't take the flashlight.
And his reaction?
The source says the fake smile just vanished. Those restless eyes now look more than disappointed. They looked angry. He doesn't say anything, but that shift in his eyes, that sudden flash of anger in the dark woods.
That's terrifying. The mask slipped. He's angry they aren't going along with it.
Exactly. The narrator doesn't wait. Trusts that fear. Turns around and walks away, fast, back towards the house. They glance back once. And KJ's just standing there and watching me. From the edge of the trees, not following, just watching.
Chilling, just standing there.
So the narrator gets back inside, heart pounding, and starts packing immediately. Doesn't feel safe for a second. Doesn't sleep. Just listens all night for any sign of KJ returning.
Did he come back?
He never came back that night.
Yeah.
The next morning, the narrator throws the essentials in their car and just leaves. Gets out of there.
Smart move. Absolutely the right call.
And years later, no contact, no explanation, nothing. Just the lingering certainty that KJ was planning something awful in those woods, and saying no, trusting that gut feeling, was maybe the only thing that prevented it.
It really shows how that trust in a shared space can just evaporate. The pattern, the strangeness, the lure, the isolation, the anger when refused. It points to something deeply sinister.
Okay, wow. Let's shift gears to the second story. This one's called The Man Who Wasn't There. And this starts out sounding much more normal.
Right. This is about living with a college roommate, Jason. They'd lived together for 2 years already in a little house near campus. Weren't best friends at first, but got closer, renewed the lease. Seems stable.
Yeah, a known quantity, which makes the weirdness even more jarring. Starts one night, narrator gets home late, chats with Jason for a bit, goes to bed, then wakes up around 3 a.m.
Why? What woke them?
Creaking floorboards. Distinctly hears them in the hallway, moving slowly towards the main living area.
Okay, old house maybe. Or just the roommate.
That's what they assume. Thinks, oh, that's just Jason. Rolls over, goes back to sleep.
Makes sense. Rational explanation.
Until the next morning. Jason asks the narrator, hey, what were you doing walking around so late last night?
Oh. So it wasn't Jason making the noise.
Nope. Narrator says, I wasn't up. I thought that was you. So now they're both confused. They kind of shrug it off. Maybe it's the house settling, wind, trying to rationalize it away.
That confirmation bias again, trying to make it fit a normal explanation.
Right. But then, the next night, the narrator is home alone. Jason's out. Goes to bed same time, wakes up same time around 3 a.m. To the creaking floorboards again.
And this time they know it's not Jason.
Exactly. So they listen really carefully. And it sounds exactly like someone slowly, deliberately walking down the hallway into the living room. It's not just random creaks. It's footsteps.
Okay, that's way creepier when you're alone.
Yeah. Silence follows for maybe 30 seconds. The narrator, totally uneasy now, gets up to check the living room. Nothing. No one there. Nothing out of place. They can't explain the sound, but the fact that it moved like footsteps is really sticking with them. They mention it to Jason again, but neither has any idea.
So the mystery deepens.
It does. And then it gets stranger. A few days later, narrator gets home late again, like 11 p.m., looks in Jason's room, and sees him sitting on his bed in the corner.
Okay, so Jason's home.
Seems like it. Narrator calls out, hey, Jason? No response.
Maybe didn't hear.
That's what the narrator thinks initially. Finds it a bit weird, but goes to the kitchen. A little later, they notice Jason's bedroom light is now off. They glance in again, and Jason is still sitting there, in the exact same spot, but now in the pitch dark corner.
Sitting in the dark. That's odd.
Very odd. Narrator calls out his name again. Still zero response. Now, the narrator is definitely thinking this is weird, but also doesn't want to, push it or intrude if Jason wants to be alone.
That's an uncomfortable situation. Someone's there, but completely unresponsive.
Right. Makes you doubt yourself. So the narrator goes back to their own room. About an hour later, they hear the creaking floorboards in the hallway again.
Oh, here we go again.
And then they see something move under the crack of their door. A shadow, an outline, something.
Okay, given the weirdness with Jason earlier.
Exactly. The narrator decides, okay, forget calling out, I'm texting the real Jason.
Smart. Using an outside channel to verify.
To send the text, wait a couple of minutes, and get a reply that just chills him to the bone. Jason texts back, what do you mean I'm not home right now?
Oh my god. Instant terror. That reframes everything.
Completely. Narrator's face goes pale, eyes glued to that door. They scramble out into the hallway, it's empty. But Jason's bedroom door, which was closed before, is now open again.
The door opened on its own, or
whoever was inside opened it. Narrator listens. Silence. Then they cautiously peek through Jason's doorway.
And what do they see?
Standing in the middle of the pitch black room is a man, not Jason. The narrator can see, even in the dark, that this guy is taller than Jason and has a thick beard. Two definite features proving this is a stranger.
A stranger inside the house, in Jason's room.
Yeah. The narrator doesn't hesitate. Runs out of the house, calls the police from across the street.
Good reaction. Get out, get help.
Police arrive pretty quickly, maybe 15 minutes. But the man is gone.
Vanished. How did he get in or out?
That's another strange part. The police check, and the only thing they find is a partially unlocked window, but it didn't seem to have been opened recently. No clear signs of forced entry or recent exit.
Which makes it even creepier. How long had he been coming and going?
That's the terrifying conclusion the narrator reaches. This guy was likely the source of the creaking for days, walking around while they slept.
Wow.
And maybe even creepier, he fitting on Jason's bed, in Jason's room, like he was waiting.
Waiting for what? Or who?
Well, the narrator figures something out later. That specific day, the day they saw the man sitting in the room, it was the one day Jason had off work, and the narrator did work, meaning Jason should have been home alone all evening.
So the theory is, the man knew Jason's schedule and was waiting for him.
That's what the narrator believes. That the man was specifically targeting Jason, waiting to catch him alone, which might explain why he was in Jason's room and why he didn't immediately do anything to the narrator when they came home unexpectedly.
And Jason just happened to be out with a friend that night.
Yeah, pure luck, avoided whatever the man had planned.
Chilling. The idea that someone could learn your routine, invade your space, and just wait, it's deeply unsettling. They never found out who it was or what he wanted.
Never. Just the terrifying possibility hanging over them.
That unknown intention is terrifying, the silent watcher in your own home.
Okay, on to our third and final story from the source, The Vanishing Shadow. This one starts with finding a roommate online, Craigslist, back in 2015.
Okay, always a bit of the gamble, right?
Yeah. Narrator's 23, finds someone named Hannah, who says she's about the same age, still in college. They chat on the phone, seems okay, like a decent match.
So far, so normal.
Hannah comes to see the apartment, likes it, agrees on the rent, moves in, within a week. Pretty quick.
Any initial red flags when they met in person?
Just one small thing the narrator noticed. Hannah looked a bit older than 23, had a more mature, older look. But they kind of dismissed it, maybe she just looked tired or whatever.
Easy enough to rationalize away at the time.
Right. First few days are busy, work, college, not much interaction. But then, day 5, the first incident. Narrator gets home about 10 p.m. As they open the door, they hear sudden rushing footsteps inside, and a door slams shut down the hall.
Okay, someone was maybe startled.
Maybe. The hallway leads to both bedrooms. Hannah's door is closed, lights on underneath. But the narrator notices their own bedroom door is open, and they are sure they closed it before leaving.
Ah, so the implication is Hannah was in their room.
That's the uncomfortable feeling. Didn't like the idea of snooping. They quickly check their room. Nothing seems obviously disturbed or missing. But the feeling is there.
Yeah, that boundary's crossed immediately. Uneasy.
Yeah, definitely. Later that evening, narrator is in their room watching TV. Haven't heard a peep from Hannah's room. Assume she went to bed early like she mentioned she might. Glances towards their own bedroom door and sees a shadow under the crack.
A shadow, like someone standing right outside.
Exactly. Hannah is standing right behind their closed door, motionless.
Whoa. Just standing there, listening.
Seems like it. Narrator's heart starts racing. How long has she been there? They call, Hannah, nothing, no movement. Calls out again, Hannah, are you out there?
The silence must have been deafening.
Totally. After a few seconds of that tense silence, the shadow slowly moved. Slid away from the door, walked back down the hallway. Then they hear her bedroom door slam shut again.
That is incredibly creepy behavior. What do you even do after that?
Narrator's freaked out, locks their door immediately. What was she doing?
Did you talk about it?
The next morning, narrator sees Hannah in the kitchen. Tries to approach it gently, brings up last night, asks kindly if she needed something, try not to accuse, but get some explanation.
And Hannah's response?
Just smiles and says, everything is good.
Yeah.
Shuts it down completely. No explanation, no acknowledgement.
Wow. Dismissive. That makes it even weirder.
Yeah, super odd. But the narrator kind of lets it drop. Doesn't want immediate conflict. But the feeling lingers.
I bet. That's hard to just forget.
And sure enough, it happens again. The very next night, narrator gets home, 10:30 p.m. this time. Apartment is dark, quiet. Hannah's light is off. Assumes she's asleep. Narrator goes into their own room quietly, closes the door, FaceTimes a friend for a bit, then decides to take a shower to unwind.
Okay, trying to have a normal evening.
Right. While in the shower, though, they swear they hear something, like a noise, just outside their room.
Like movement.
Unclear. They turn the water down to listen really hard, but don't hear anything else. So they finish up, get out, dry off. Look towards the doorway leading out of the bathroom into their bedroom. And the door from their bedroom out to the main hallway is open.
But they closed it when they came in.
They thought they did. Now they're really creeped out. Quickly gets dressed, closes the door firmly, and locks it. They try to rationalize, maybe they thought they closed it, but didn't. Maybe they unconsciously unlocked it earlier. But it feels wrong, especially after the shadow incident.
Yeah, the pattern is making rationalization harder and harder. Did Hannah seem to be awake or moving around?
No, the apartment is still totally dark and quiet, like she never left her room. The narrator is really shaken now, tries to watch TV to calm down, but can't shake the paranoia. They just don't know Hannah well enough to understand any of this.
It's the unknown, combined with the invasion of space. Really unsettling.
And then comes the third incident that night, the worst one. Narrator finally tries to sleep, turns everything off, drifts off for a bit, then wakes up suddenly. Room is pitch black, apartment silent. But they can see. Their bedroom door is cracked open. Just a few inches.
They locked it this time. They're sure.
Absolutely positive they locked it. And they didn't hear it open. Pure terror sets in.
I would be terrified. Knowing someone opened your locked door while you slept?
They call out Hannah. Softly. Just silence. But the silence feels heavy. Loud, somehow. They sit up in bed, just staring at that crack of darkness, feeling watched.
That feeling of being watched. Horrible.
As their eyes adjust to the pitch black room, they see it. A figure, standing silently in the corner near the wardrobe, not moving, not speaking, just standing there, facing them.
Oh my God. Inside the room.
Heart hammering. The figure takes a step forward. The narrator can just make out the outline of her face, describes it as having a blank, dead stare, takes another step closer.
This is nightmare fuel.
And then suddenly the figure runs, dashes across the room, out the cracked door, into the hallway. A second later, slam, Hannah's bedroom door shuts.
She was in the room watching, then bolted.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Narrator doesn't think twice. Grabs their phone, keys, and sprints out of the apartment, out of the building. Doesn't even feel safe in the parking lot. Drives to a nearby neighborhood, parks, calls the police, completely horrified.
Absolutely the right move. Get out.
Police arrive. Maybe 15 minutes later, they go up to the apartment.
And Hannah.
Gone. Vanished.
Yeah.
Took most of her stuff. Just disappeared.
Wow. Just like that.
But here's the kicker. The police try to find her using the name and number the narrator gave them. All fabricated. The name wasn't real. The phone number was a prepaid burner phone, no identity attached. Hannah basically didn't exist.
She was using a completely fake identity. The whole time.
The whole time.
Well.
Which explains maybe why she looked older, why her behavior was so bizarre and secretive.
That adds a whole other layer of disturbing. Why the fake identity? What was she really planning?
Exactly. A decade later, the narrator has never seen or heard from her again. Just left with the terrifying feeling that this woman, whoever she was, likely had some really disturbing intentions. So many questions, basically no answers. The narrator moved apartments, too scared she might somehow come back.
That deliberate deception, the escalating invasive behavior, culminating in being in the room, and then the instant vanishing act. It suggests someone who knew they were doing something wrong and had planned their escape. Utterly chilling.
It really is. And when you look at all three of these stories together, you see they're not just about weird noises or feeling spooked.
No, the common element is the direct, unsettling interaction. Either with the roommate themselves acting strangely and menacingly like KJ or Hannah, or this unknown figure tied to the roommate's space, like in the second story.
Yeah, and these themes just jump out, don't they? That complete breakdown of trust in what should be your safest place. That awful feeling being watched, being vulnerable in your own home.
Right, and the sheer strangeness of the behavior from someone you live with, someone you thought was, at least somewhat normal. And that power of silence or someone just being there unexpectedly, how terrifying that can be.
It boils down to that primal fear, doesn't it? Realizing you might not be safe where you live. Maybe because of who you live with.
And in every single case, the narrator's intuition was screaming at them. That gut feeling that something was deeply wrong, even before they could logically explain it all.
That's such a key takeaway.
Yeah.
Trusting that feeling seems crucial in these situations. It's like an internal alarm system.
Definitely. And the lack of answers in the end, the unknown motives of KJ the intruder, Hannah, that actually adds to the horror, doesn't it? Sometimes not knowing why is the scariest part. Leaves your mind to fill in the blanks.
Absolutely. And those specific images, they really stick with you. KJ's wide eyes, then the angry look in the woods.
That text message, I'm not home right now. Just shattering reality.
Hannah's shadow under the door. That blank stare in the dark corner of the room. These moments are just deeply unsettling.
Yeah, they're visceral. They tap into real fears.
So when you hear these accounts, you can see why they resonate. They hit on that fundamental fear of invasion, of losing safety in your most private space, your home.
And they remind you chillingly that sometimes the people closest to you, physically at least, the ones you share walls with, might be hiding things, intentions that you can't even fathom.
These explorations really show that sometimes the most terrifying things aren't ghosts or monsters, but the unknowns lurking within ordinary people, right next door or even in the next room.
Turning the familiar into the frightening.
So maybe the thought to leave you with today is this. How well do you really know the people you share your space with? And what do you do when that gut feeling, that intuition, starts telling you something is profoundly, terribly wrong?
It's a heavy thought. Thank you for joining us as we unpack these truly creepy roommate stories. If you find these kinds of real-life unsettling accounts compelling, please do like, share, and subscribe to our channel, Horror Docs.
We appreciate you listening and joining us for this deep dive.